before I became unstoppable. I had to disappear, not from the world, but from the version of me that was addicted to being seen. I buried my reflection, starved my emotions, trained in silence while the world kept shouting. And what I found in the shadows was a version of me no one was ready for. Not loud, not flashy, just deadly calm, mentally invisible, unshakable. This is not motivation. This is transformation. There is power in being unseen. I didn't always know this. I used to think I had to be everywhere, show everything, make noise so people would notice me. But the more I did that, the weaker I felt. Because when you let the world see everything about you, they start to grab pieces of you. Your thoughts, your peace, your energy. And slowly, you become theirs, not yours. So I stopped showing everything. I trained myself to disappear, not physically, but mentally. I didn't need everyone to know what I was doing, what I was feeling, or where I was going. I became quiet on purpose. I let people wonder instead of explain. I let my silence become my defense. Because here's what I learned. If people can't find your weakness, they can't use it. If they don't know your next move, they can't stop it. If they don't understand you, they can't control you. I became like smoke, there, but untouchable. I could walk into a room and no one could read me. I didn't react. I didn't explain. I didn't perform. This wasn't hiding. This was sharpening. This was evolving in a way no one saw coming. The world tells you to be visible, to shout, to prove. But I learned that real power is quiet. It's not in being seen. It's in being so focused, so calm, so centered that the world loses track of you. And by the time they notice you again, you've already become something else. Don't be afraid to disappear, because when you do it right, you don't come back the same. You come back untouchable. You come back unshakable. You come back as the version of you they'll never be able to break again. I killed my reflection, and it was the hardest thing I ever did. Because for a long time, I lived for it. The reflection in the mirror, the reflection in other people's eyes, the image, the approval, the praise. I let it define me. I let it control me. I used to stand in front of the mirror, flexing, fixing, doubting, wondering if I was enough. Not just physically, but mentally, emotionally, spiritually. I asked myself questions no one could hear. Do they see me? Do they respect me? Am I winning? Am I impressive enough to be remembered? But one day, something broke. I realized I was becoming a prisoner. Not to others, but to my own reflection. To this fake version of myself I had created just to be accepted. It hit me hard. When you live for your reflection, you will die by their rejection. That's when I knew. If I wanted to be free, I had to kill it. So I did. Not with anger, not with violence, but with truth. I stood in front of that mirror and said, "You are not who I am. You are who they want me to be." And I let it go. No more living to impress. No more adjusting myself to be liked. No more measuring my worth by applause or attention. Because the moment you stop needing to be seen, you finally start to see yourself. The real self. The self that's not performing. The self that doesn't care about image, only impact. Most people walk around trying to prove something. Trying to be louder, bigger, more admired. But I learned. You don't become powerful by being seen. You become powerful by being undeniable. And to be undeniable, you have to be authentic. Even if it means people don't understand you. Even if it means they walk away. Even if it means you're alone. Because there is a peace that comes when you no longer need the world to tell you who you are. I didn't kill my reflection to become less. I killed it to become limitless. No more mirror, no more mask, no more pretending. I don't need to be liked. I don't need to be famous. I don't even need to be remembered. I just need to be real. With myself, with my purpose, with my path. That's the part no one can take from you. That's the part that survives. Even when the spotlight fades. Even when the mirror cracks. Even when the crowd stops clapping. Because when you no longer need to be reflected, you become something far more rare. You become centered. You become untouchable. You become free. I buried my old voice. Not because it was evil, not because it was weak, but because it was not mine. It was given to me by fear, by doubt, by a world that wanted me to stay small, quiet, obedient. It told me things. You're not ready. You're not good enough. Wait until they approve. Don't speak too loudly. You might upset them. It was always whispering, always afraid. But I listened. I let that voice lead me for years. In training, it made me hesitate. In life, it made me overthink. In silence, it screamed the loudest. It told me I had to win every argument, that I had to be liked, that I had to prove myself, or I was nothing. And the scariest part, that voice sounded like me. It used my own tone, my own breath. So I believed it. I thought it was me, until I had enough. One night I sat in the dark, no spotlight, no noise, just breath. And I asked myself, who taught me to speak to myself this way? Who benefits when I doubt my own power? Why do I keep following a voice that has never led me to peace? The truth hit me like a strike to the chest. I was speaking with the language of my old pain, old failure, old programming, and I made a choice. I would bury it, not with anger, with ceremony, like a warrior burying a fallen brother, grateful for the lessons, but ready to move forward. I didn't just silence that voice. I replaced it. I trained a new one, a stronger one, a voice that speaks with clarity, not confusion, with purpose, not panic, with truth, not fear. Now, when I step into a room, my mind does not ask, do they like me? It asks, am I aligned with who I am? Now, when I fail, my voice doesn't say, see, I told you. It says, this is how we sharpen. Let's move again. I speak to myself like a leader, because if you don't lead your inner world, your outer world will always lead you. And here's what most people never understand. That old voice in your head, it's not your truth. It's your trauma echoing, and you're allowed to bury it, even if it's been with you for years, even if it sounds like home. Because pain can become familiar, but that doesn't mean it belongs. When I buried my old voice, something incredible happened. I heard a new one, quiet at first, but clear, steady, unshakable. It didn't need applause, it didn't beg for reassurance. It just said, let's keep going. That's the voice that built me. That's the voice that guides me now. That's the voice you must find, beneath the noise, beneath the wounds, beneath the lies. You're not broken. You're just buried under the voice of who you no longer are. So bury the old, not out of hate, but out of honor. It got you here, but it cannot take you further. And once it's gone, speak again. This time, as the version of you that no longer needs to be saved. Only sharpened. I practiced being forgotten. On purpose, and not just once, not for a few days or during hard times. I made it a part of my training, just like I trained my body, my strikes, my breath. I trained my absence. Because I needed to know, who am I? When no one is watching, who am I? When they stop clapping, stop calling, stop needing me, you see, the world teaches you to chase attention, to be relevant, to stay in the spotlight, to keep showing up or they'll forget you. And most people, they panic at that thought. They say, don't let them forget you. But I asked, what if I let them? What if I allowed myself to be unseen? And I didn't fall apart. That's when I discovered something sacred. When the world forgets you, you start to remember yourself. You remember how to move without performance. You remember how to breathe without pressure. You remember how to listen, really listen, to your inner world without interruption. And most importantly, you remember that your value was never in their memory. It was always in your presence. I practiced walking into rooms quietly, letting others talk more, letting others shine more. I didn't need to dominate the space, because I was becoming the kind of man who didn't need a stage to feel strong. There's a strange kind of power that grows in the shadows. When you no longer chase being seen, you start becoming undeniable without even trying. You see, attention is addictive, but attention is also fragile. It fades, it shifts, it betrays. The crowd that cheers for you today can walk past you tomorrow, and if your identity is built on being remembered, you'll collapse the moment you're ignored. So I trained myself to be okay with silence, to be okay with being left out, to be okay with being misunderstood, overlooked, even forgotten. Not because I gave up, but because I was charging in the dark. Because I knew one truth most people can't handle. You don't need to be remembered by many. You need to be remembered by yourself. You need to wake up each day and say, dash, dash. I know who I am. Even if they don't post about me, even if they don't invite me, even if they never say my name again. You are not a brand. You are not a performance. You are a presence. And presence doesn't need permission to be powerful. I stopped needing to be everyone's first thought. I became content with being their last lesson. Because when you practice being forgotten, you start building a legacy that doesn't need applause. You become the kind of person who can disappear for months and come back stronger, sharper, quieter, but undeniable. I practiced being forgotten, so I could remember what it feels like to belong fully to myself. No pressure, no noise, just purpose. Because when you no longer fear being forgotten, you become someone the world can never truly ignore again. I starved my emotions to feed my discipline. Not because emotions are bad, not because I didn't feel. I felt everything, deeper than most people will ever understand. But I learned this the hard way. If you feed your emotions more than your discipline, you will burn everything you're trying to build. I used to be reactive, quick to anger, quick to prove, quick to break. Someone would insult me and I'd feel the heat rise in my chest. I'd respond, snap, not because I wanted to, but because I didn't know how not to. I was addicted to the emotional hit, the fight, the fire, the feeling of being right, even if it cost me my peace. But one day I looked in the mirror, and I didn't recognize the man staring back. My eyes were sharp, but not steady. My body was strong, but my mind was chaotic. I had power, but no control. That's when I realized my greatest opponent wasn't outside me. It was the part of me that kept choosing temporary feelings over permanent growth. So I made a decision. I would no longer let my emotions eat first. Discipline would sit at the head of the table. That meant saying no when every part of me screamed yes. That meant walking away when my pride wanted to swing. That meant showing up when I felt tired, broken, misunderstood, unseen. It wasn't easy. There were days I shook in silence, just holding it all in. But each time I did, I gained something stronger than the feeling itself. I gained command, not just over my body, over my spirit. You see, emotions are like wild horses, powerful, raw, unpredictable. But if you ride them without reins, they'll take you off a cliff. Discipline is the reins. It doesn't kill the horse. It guides it, focuses it, turns it from chaos into controlled power. I didn't stop feeling. I just stopped obeying every emotion like it was a king. I trained my anger to fuel my workouts. I trained my sadness to sharpen my focus. I trained my loneliness to strengthen my independence. And my fear, I looked it in the eyes and said, "You can walk with me, but you don't get to lead anymore." You think strength is loud? Number real strength is the man who wants to explode, but stays calm. The one who wants to quit, but keeps going. The one who feels everything, but chooses what to act on. I don't care how fast you are, how strong your punch is. If your emotions run you, you will lose to the man who runs himself. So I starved my emotions, not forever, just long enough for them to learn. Discipline eats first, because when the pressure comes, when the world pushes, when everything starts to fall apart, it's not your emotions that will save you, it's your habits, your rituals, your control, your clarity, your calm. The storm doesn't wait for you to feel ready. So I trained myself to stand in it, still sharp and focused, even when my heart was screaming. Now I don't need to react. I don't need to shout. I don't need to prove. I just act decisively, deliberately, with the kind of power you only earn when you learn to rule your inner world. That is why I buried the emotional child inside me, so the disciplined warrior could rise. I studied shadows, not light. Most people are addicted to light. They want the spotlight, the compliments, the bright, beautiful parts of life where everything looks perfect. But light can lie to you, because under bright light, even broken things shine. Under bright light, you can hide your cracks, your pain, your rage, your fear, and dress them up in smiles and success. But I wasn't looking to be admired. I was looking to be whole. And to do that, I had to walk into the shadows, the uncomfortable places inside myself, the memories I avoided, the truths I buried, the wounds I never let heal, the jealousy, the insecurity, the guilt, the fear, the parts of me I was afraid to admit existed. That's where I trained. In the silence, where no one was watching, where no one could clap or correct or distract me. Just me and my unfiltered self. I asked my anger, "Why are you here?" It said, "Because you've been unheard for too long." I asked my sadness, "What are you trying to tell me?" It said, "You keep pretending you're okay, and I'm the part that knows you're not." I asked my fear, "Why do you always whisper when I'm about to grow?" It said, "Because growth means letting go, and letting go feels like dying." This is the work most people never do. They dress up their light, hoping no one sees their dark. But I leaned into the dark, because I knew you can't become powerful by pretending you have no shadows. You become powerful by owning them. I stopped being afraid of what was wrong with me. I started asking, what can this teach me? Pain became my professor. Fear became my sparring partner. Doubt became my mirror. And in time, all those shadows stopped scaring me, because I realized they weren't there to break me. They were there to show me what I hadn't faced yet. And the more I studied them, the more I understood people. The more I could feel pain in others without being shaken by it. The more I could see through fake smiles. The more I could move in this world, not as a perfect man, but as a man who had nothing left to hide. You want to know why I'm calm under pressure? Why I move like I've already seen what's coming? It's not because I'm special. It's because I've already fought the monsters inside me. And I didn't run. The shadow didn't destroy me. It refined me. It turned me into someone unshakable. Because when you stop fearing your own darkness, you stop fearing theirs too. You stop reacting to noise. You stop chasing validation. You stop crumbling when things go wrong. You become centered, rooted. Not because everything is light, but because you've made peace with the dark. And that peace, that grounded stillness, is what the world feels when you walk in the room. You don't need to glow to be powerful. You don't need to be bright to be unbreakable. You just need to be whole. And wholeness comes from studying the parts of you no one else can see. So while they studied the light, I studied the shadow. And that's why I can move through both without losing myself. I made peace with loneliness, but not the romantic kind people write about in poems. Not the cinematic kind where the lone warrior walks into the sunset with pride. I'm talking about the real kind. The kind of loneliness that eats at your thoughts when the room is silent. The kind that follows you after the crowd leaves, after the applause fades, after the ones who said, "I'll always be here," are gone. That kind. I used to fight it, distract myself, surround myself with people. Fill every second with noise, conversations, goals, training, movement, anything to avoid being alone with myself. Because in that silence, I didn't just hear nothing. I heard everything. The doubts, the fear, the grief, the pain I never had the courage to name. The parts of me that were still bleeding, even though I kept pretending I had healed. And I realized something terrifying. I wasn't afraid of loneliness. I was afraid of meeting myself in it. But I had a choice to make. Keep running, or sit in the silence long enough to understand it. So I sat. No music, no distractions, just breath and silence. The kind of silence that doesn't comfort you. It confronts you. And I listened. I heard the voice I'd been avoiding. The one that asked, "Why do you keep trying to prove yourself? Why do you need them to see you? Why do you fear being forgotten?" And slowly, loneliness became something else. It became a mirror, a teacher, a sanctuary. Because when no one else is around, you can no longer perform. You can't impress, you can't pretend, you just are. And in that stillness, I met the version of me that didn't need applause, didn't need validation, didn't need to be loved by everyone, only to be at peace with myself. You see, most people confuse loneliness with emptiness. But loneliness isn't the absence of others. It's the absence of connection with yourself. Once you reconnect inwardly, you stop needing noise to feel alive. Now I train alone, think alone, walk alone, not because I hate people, but because I don't need them to fill a space in me anymore. I learned to sit with myself, to feel without judgment, to hurt without hiding, to breathe without reaching for someone else to make it okay. That's power. The kind that doesn't shout, it just is. Because when you've made peace with loneliness, when you've stood in the middle of your own emptiness and didn't run, you become something different. Not hard, not bitter, but whole. No more chasing people who can't stay. No more begging the world to see you. No more reshaping yourself just to be accepted. Now, when I enter a room, I don't need to be surrounded. I don't need attention. I don't need anything but alignment. Because I've walked through the darkest part of my soul, and I came out still standing. So if you're alone right now, and it hurts, good. It means you're exactly where the real transformation begins. Don't run. Sit, breathe, listen. There's a version of you waiting on the other side of that silence. Stronger, clearer, and more powerful than you've ever known. I made peace with loneliness. and now it walks beside me like an old friend. Not to fill the space, but to remind me I was never empty, just undiscovered. I died before I fought. That's why I never lost. You see, people train their bodies. They learn moves, they lift weights, they throw punches and memorize techniques. But when the moment comes, when life hits them hard, they crumble. Not because they were weak physically, but because they were still alive to all the wrong things. Alive to fear, alive to pride, alive to ego, alive to the need to win and the terror of losing. I saw it happen over and over. Strong men breaking under pressure. Not because their bodies failed, but because they never prepared to let go of what truly controls them, the self they refuse to let die. So I chose a different path. I died before I ever stepped into battle. I died to my need to be right. I died to my fear of failure. I died to my addiction to being seen, to being liked, to being remembered. I let all of it go. I stripped myself bare. Until there was nothing left to protect, nothing left to defend, nothing left to prove. And when that version of me died, something else was born. Still, silent, unshakable. Now I walk into rooms without needing approval. I speak without needing agreement. I fight without needing to win. Because the man who no longer fears death is the most dangerous man alive. I trained myself to let go before the world took anything from me. So when I lost friends, I was ready. When they doubted me, I didn't flinch. When failure came, I didn't break, because what they were attacking no longer existed. I no longer stood there as a fragile identity waiting to be accepted. I stood there as a presence dash, rooted, real, complete. Most people are waiting to be free. They say, once I get stronger, richer, better, then I'll be fearless. But the truth is, you don't become fearless by adding more. You become fearless by letting go. The fear of being misunderstood, the fear of not being enough, the fear of being alone, the fear of failing in front of others. I faced them all. I didn't fight them with force. I bowed to them and watched them dissolve. Because when you stop trying to protect an image, you become real. And the real version of you is the one the world cannot break. That's why I say I died before I fought. I didn't walk into battle with the weight of needing to win. I walked in empty, clear, alive only to the moment, not the outcome. And that's why nothing could shake me. Because I had already let go of what they were trying to take. So if you want to become unshakable, don't start by adding more. Start by dying. Die to what no longer serves you. Die to the version of you that lives for approval. Die to the illusion that you have something to prove, and then rise, quiet, calm, untouchable. Not because you're fearless, but because you have nothing left to fear. I died before I fought, and in that death, I found the only kind of freedom that lasts. Do not become what they expect. Become what they cannot predict. This is the shadow protocol. It is not for the many, but if you walk it, you will become the one.